Hey, what's up? What's up, everybody? This is Jeff from BKJmacTV, and this is the BKJmac podcast experience. And this is season 2, episode 42. And today we're going to be talking about the review on WWE's Ruthless Aggression. Yes, WWE's Ruthless Aggression. If you have Peacock, you could watch it on the Peacock streaming network. So I've had the opportunity to watch 9 episodes. It is a 10-episode series. I got one more episode to watch before I complete the full 2-season swing. I'll tell you this. It brought some nostalgic feeling back watching this. It was amazing seeing how John Cena, Brock Lesnar, the ending of the Rock and Stone Cold feud, the rise of Jericho, Kane, Shelton Benjamin, Edge, Undertaker, the feuds, the Elimination Chamber match, the rise of women's wrestling, Taboo Tuesday. It was so many things that occurred during the era of Ruthless Aggression. And remember, this was coming off of the Attitude Era, which was from 1997 to 2002. When you watch the series, you're gonna be amazed by the clips leading up to the moment Ruthless Aggression began. Basically, they talk about how Vince McMahon has the wrestlers in the ring, and they're talking about they need to shake things up again. And one of the things that they did was split the shows up because they had gotten bored. Vince McMahon had purchased his competition WCW in March of 2001. And basically, he was like, well, what am I going to do? He brought in all the WCW wrestlers, or most of them, that actually still wanted to work and did not want to get out of their contracts. And they have their reasons to do so. Led to this thing called the Invasion, which was like the last leg of the Attitude, which was like almost near the last leg of the Attitude Era. And let's be honest, it didn't translate well. And McMahon pulled the plug at Survivor Series. And by the time the NWO came on board, you could see that the Attitude Era was basically fading out. They needed new stars. They needed new opportunities to shine this WWE product. And this is how Ruthless Aggression came about. And what you're gonna watch in season 1 is, I'm gonna run down the episodes to you. The episodes came out back in 2020, February 16, 2020. So let's get to it. First episode, it's time to shake things up. That's the first episode. Basically, what I alluded to you earlier is how Vince McMahon decided he needed to shake things up. He needed something different from the Attitude Era, and decided with the brand extension, which we had all the superstars dedicated to Raw and superstars dedicated to SmackDown. So you'll see the making of that process, the decision, what went into it. Talking Bruce Pritchard, JR, the superstars. You're talking, trying to figure out, was this really a good idea? You know, what would it mean for WWE? Would the WWE survive? And let me be honest, the name WWE came out of Ruthless Aggression because back in the early 2002, WWE, known then as WWF, had lost a court battle with the actual WWF, which was the Wildlife Federation, I believe, Foundation. And they had won the name, and because of that, WWF had to get the F out and change their name or be sued. So they went into this ad campaign and they basically got the F out, and WWF became WWE. And instead of seeing the E, they just put double W's. But you understood, like, it became an entertainment company. It was no longer the Federation. It was the WWE Universe. Eventually, the universe would be adopted later on, but literally that would be it, and that's what it details in the first episode. Episode number 2, enter John Cena. John Cena. They show him how his development was in OVW. They show him coming up. Some of the guys had issues with him. They felt like he didn't want to listen, but you can almost say that's jealousy, because that's usually what it is in professional workspaces. John Cena got the call to the main roster, and his first moment was against Kurt Angle. And Kurt Angle was looking for an open challenge to prove that he had ruthless aggression. Now he was ready to answer Vince McMahon's call for ruthless aggression. And John Cena came out of nowhere and said, hey, what brings me out here is ruthless aggression. You see him slapping Kurt Angle, and they end up having a decent match. And it was a pretty good match. The crowd was buzzing. Kurt Angle defeats him. And, you see Undertaker give him the respect. And you see John Cena was so green. But then the gimmick slowly caved. They talk about his different color shorts that he would wear whenever he was in a city. And I'm like, I never paid attention to that. I didn't realize that he would wear different color shorts based on the city's teams and whatnot. And it's what he did. And fans just did not translate to him. And they just didn't like that. And that's what you will see. You will see his struggle of trying to figure out how to deal with that aspect. And the fans not getting behind him, how he was rapidly failing. And eventually he even talked about how the WWE was going to fire him, because he talked about there were these 2 evaluation periods. I think one was in the spring and one was in the fall. And because he was closer to the fall, he was in danger of being dismissed by the WWE. Now, let me ask you this for a moment. What happened if WWE would have dismissed John Cena in 2002? Would we have the Doctor of Thugonomics, the 16-time world champion, amongst us today in Hollywood, in the Fast and the Furious films and all those commercials? It's crazy. John Cena was able to find a way to turn it around in 2002 and become the person he is today, which is a bankable Hollywood star with ties to the black and brown community, because the act that he was about to don was, hey, I'm gonna say it all, was a rapper. He became a rapper and a character, a rap, and he did pretty good too, because he respected the craft, he respected the lineage of rap and the histories of it, the battles of the MCs. And because it was an episode where there was a moment where he heard Rikishi and Rey Mysterio freestyling on the bus. He said, I'm gonna jump into this and I'm gonna spit, and they were impressed. Stephanie McMahon was impressed. Stephanie gave him an opportunity, and they said, this is what you're gonna do. They repackaged him, and suddenly he became the man you see today, John Cena, the Doctor of Thugonomics. The brand ambassador, the one who basically dedicated a good portion of life to answering the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is extraordinary in itself. John Cena, he'll admit to you in this episode that he failed during the Ruthless Aggression, but he was able to turn it around real quick. He was able to turn it around with the right opportunity came his way. So that's a really interesting episode. Episode 2, Evolution. Wow, Evolution. I know if anybody can remember the group Evolution, led by Triple H, Randy Orton, Batista, and Ric Flair. People didn't realize Batista almost didn't make Evolution because of his nagging injuries, and there was this guy, Mark Jindrak, I think that was his name. I'm not too familiar. He was close friends with Randy Orton, and Vince McMahon was pushing him into Evolution, and Triple H didn't want it. And they showed the interaction how this young man did not take the business seriously, and Triple H wanted him gone. And eventually, Evolution became 3 until Batista came after injuring himself a second time, trying to come back from his original injury. You could see how Randy Orton and Batista were green, eventually becoming strong, suitable, marketable superstars in the WWE during the Ruthless Aggression era. They also talk about Ric Flair, how depressed he was coming out of his AOL contract from the debunked WCW. Ric Flair felt like he didn't have it no more. He felt like he was in crossroads of his life, and essentially Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque was able to basically re-energize his career and creating the staple Evolution. So if anything, Evolution not only gave new meaning to new wrestlers for main event spots in Randy Orton and Batista, but it gave new purpose, it gave new hope to Ric Flair. Basically, he was repurposed for a bigger role, in a mentorship role, in essence of the formation of Evolution. So you'll see so much details behind the scenes, interviews about how Evolution became what it is at that time, a very powerful faction in the WWE. The next episode, which is one of my favorite one, is The Next Big Thing. Talks about Brock Lesnar, the rise of Brock Lesnar, another wrestler who came out of OVW, who got promoted to the main roster. This guy was a freak machine. This guy was slamming people, throwing people around the ring, in WWE, and the crowd ate it up. They loved it so much, and they paired him up with Paul Heyman, and Mr. Heyman was able to take Brock Lesnar and to the next level, basically harnessing his skill level to the max in terms of being able to prepare with promos and getting over with certain wrestlers. They talk about his rise, but they also talk about his downfalls. They talk about his win at SummerSlam against The Rock for the WWE Championship. They also talk about his demise in wanting to leave the company after WrestleMania 20. He got burnt out. He didn't want to do it no more, and people in the back took it very personal, and they just let him go. They talk about his great match with Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 19, but they also talk about how he almost severely hurt himself because Kurt Angle gave him some advice saying, "No, you should do the shooting star press." I didn't know that came from Kurt Angle, and Kurt Angle, that was horrible advice. And let's be honest, the rise, the next big thing. We talk about how he won the King of the Ring. He was a staple for the for Ruthless Aggression era. Brock Lesnar, the next big thing. Very well known, very well talked about, very well documented. Gotta watch this episode. Gotta look at the interviews on this wrestler, the Brock Lesnar. The last episode of season 1 is Civil War, Raw versus SmackDown. Well, this goes deep into the separation of the brands and why they did it and how essential it was to separate the shows. And they talk about the evolutions of after separating the shows and how they went to other brand extensions, separate pay-per-views, the level of giving talents certain levels of opportunity that they would not have gotten if the show would have just continued the way it was in the past. You got superstars like Edge, Christian. Well, Christian did not much get opportunity, but Edge got the opportunity. Kurt Angle, there's Brock Lesnar, John Cena, John Bradshaw Layfield, and the late great Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. So many wrestlers got opportunities because of the brand extension between the Raw and SmackDown. So it's something interesting to look at. The interviews, you gotta look at it. Randy Orton, Batista got opportunities. Booker T, a little late, but he got the opportunity. It's definitely worth a watch. Definitely, I would say. And if you go to season 2, Hollywood Rock, where they talk about the moment where The Rock, left the WWE, came back. He was being booed by the fans because the fans resented him for leaving WWE. They're saying, how could you do that to us? We needed you, and you're leaving us for Hollywood for better opportunities. And The Rock took it in stride, became a heel, and the crowd still kept cheering after his catchphrases. And The Rock was like, no, you lost that opportunity when you started to boo me. And it was a back and forth. He had his final match with Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 19, which was really a good match. The Rock finally winning. It was a good episode detailing Hollywood Rock. Innovations. So Innovations is the second episode of season 2, Ruthless Aggressions. They talk about the Bite This. They talk about Taboo Tuesday, Money in the Bank. They have the women's matches, and most importantly, the Elimination Chamber, which saw its debut at Survivor Series 2002, and eventually getting better with every year, following to the point where it got its own event, the Elimination Chamber. The First Revolution. This talks about the women's revolution and how women wrestling has come a long way from its days of puppies and water and mud fights and stuff like that. I gotta tell you, when I watch old WWE from the Attitude Era, watching what the women had to go through, it's pretty disgusting. It was pretty sad, and it was extremely sexist. I'm offended as a man that I had to take part in that, watching that back then. Puppies, HLA, which stands for Hot Lesbian Action. It was really bad. I think it really it showed women that they were inferior wrestlers back then, and it wasn't fair. It was horrible. It was a horrible imaging, but they never gave up. And this episode details their fight, the original fighters who try to lead the First Revolution: Trish Stratus, Lita, Mickie James. There's so many. Molly Holly. There's so many wrestlers. Jackie, Jazz. There's so many of these women wrestlers that just paved the way for this generation to thrive. And it's just amazing, to be honest with you. It's just amazing. I was saying that Luna would be proud of this women's revolution because that's what she wanted. She wanted to compete, and the way she was being dissed by Vince McMahon was so horrifying. And watching the episode was just gave me an emotional tear. And Fit Finlay, who was the coach of the WWE women, he trained them. He literally built the women's division by training them. And Stephanie McMahon, when she became the general manager of SmackDown, she was able to take it to the next level. And then eventually they dropped the name Diva and call it the championship, the women's championship. So the first revolution of the women's division is an emotional one, and they really talk about it, and it came out of Ruthless Aggression. The fourth episode, the resurrection of Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, everybody knew him. He was a douchebag in the early 90s. He was drugged up. He drank a lot of alcohol, took a lot of pills, but he suffered a lot of bumps and bruises in the ring. He just did so much, but it really rubbed people off the wrong way. But then he came back when he had that back injury. He was out for 4 years. He came back a new wrestler, a new person, a new character, and a new purpose in life. And he wanted to make amends for everybody that he offended in his first run. And for 8 years he did that. And they talk about his rise and making amends for his transgressions from yesterday. And he did it. And Shawn Michaels really did it, and it made him it showed why he was a really good wrestler. And this episode really details that. Episode 4. I haven't watched episode 5, but I'm sure it's going to be pretty good. Please check it out. Ruthless Aggression series on the Peacock streaming service. Thank you for listening to this episode. Peace, love, always. One.